You have continuity or a succession plan for your business?
Has anyone shared the concept of sustainability with you?
What about the need to protect the rights of minority shareholders?
What are those ingredients germane to having effective meetings?
For these and many more, tune into Corporate Governance Platform every Thursday on MITV, your darling station, on DSTV 255 and UHF 43 at 4:30 p.m.
Corporate Governance Platform is your best medium for informative and educative strategies for the practice of the corporate governance profession.
Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN, the hub of governance professionals. Do you have continuity or a succession plan for your business?
Has anyone shared the concept of sustainability with you?
What about the need to protect the rights of minority shareholders?
What are those ingredients germane to having effective meetings?
For these and many more, tune into Corporate Governance Platform every Thursday on MITV, your darling station, on DSTV 255 and UHF 43 at 4:30 p.m.
Corporate Governance Platform is your best medium for informative and educative strategies for the practice of the corporate governance profession.
Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN, the hub of governance professionals.
Many thanks for joining another exciting episode of Corporate Governance Platform. The program is proudly brought to you by the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN, the hub of governance professionals. And my name is Tunde Odeyemi. In today's episode, we are going to be looking at guides to effective remuneration policy in corporate governance. And to lead in the discussion is a distinguished fellow of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN, Mr. ONYEKACHI Uko. Mr. ONYEKACHI Uko is a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, as earlier mentioned, a 1987 graduate of the University of Benin City in Edo State, where he bagged LLB honors and was called to the Nigerian bar. He is the immediate past editor of the flagship magazine of the Lagos chapter of ICSAN and currently serves on the Finance and General Purpose Committee of the Institute. Mr. Uko is a principal of OCU Professional Services, a firm of corporate governance practitioners.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Uko, we are so glad to have you on Corporate Governance Platform.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Today we want to look at a very important topic to any organization. It's guides to effective remuneration policy as it relates to corporate governance. And at this point in time, we'd like to also invite our viewers to be part of the show by asking questions as you go along the line or make comments on the show. You can send your questions or comments via text message to 080-2323-1287. I'll take the number again, 080-2323-1287. You have the number on the screen of your television set. Yeah, Mr. Uko, guides to effective remuneration policy in corporate governance. You know, remuneration is a very cardinal issue. And what are the implications if an organization doesn't get it right?
Thank you very much. To answer your question, when we understand what remuneration is all about, we can see remuneration as the total amount paid to an employee, which will include his salary, commissions, bonuses, and all other components that make it up. So a company needs to get it right, in that a company needs to attract the highly skilled labor that will enable it to deliver on its core objectives. And also, a company needs to retain that labor force. Otherwise, it may turn out that skilled labor is employed, thereafter they are being lost to other companies due to competition. You know, in the past, people take up employments in very good companies, and they live a life of working for the company and then retire. But some years back now, things have changed. Highly skilled labor is very mobile. I have friends that have moved from one blue chip company to the other. So the company need to think well about how to motivate its employees, retain it, and reward it so that they can be retained to achieve the core objectives for which the company is set up.
Okay, the Nigerian Code of Corporate Governance, NCCG 2018, actually made provisions for Remuneration Committee of the Board. Now, what are the functions of the Remuneration Committee?
Yeah, the functions are mainly two. One, they are to develop a framework of remuneration policies and procedures for the company, And two, they are to recommend to the board the remuneration structure and the policy for directors and senior management employees. Those are the two major functions of the committee I set up in the code.
Okay. It's a common phrase in corporate governance that remuneration should be sufficient enough to attract, to retain, and to motivate. And on the flip side, that it should not be too excessive. Can you shed more light on this provision and why it is desirable?
Well, I don't know what is meant by excessive. Although I see that phrase in the
no, excessive. Too much.
Yes, too much.
You know, we talk about minimum wage. You never talk about maximum wage.
That is true.
Okay, so
but saying that something is excessive is subjective.
Okay.
Yeah, because before a policy is set by a company, major policy is set by a company, there's so many factors considered.
Okay.
One, the profitability, the industry, the number of staff, and all that. I think that all these things are considered in setting up the remuneration policy. And above all, even if the policy is set and there are headwinds in the business, it can be adjusted. What I'm saying, budgets are drawn up by companies, and when there are headwinds, they cut back. They can always adjust it. Take, for example, what happened last year during COVID. I understand from my friends who work in some companies that some of the remuneration they were getting were all adjusted to accommodate that headwind. So I don't really think that's excessive. Companies are dynamic. They take into consideration all the happenings in the environment. And once there are headwinds that are negative, the policies could always be adjusted to accommodate it.
Okay, going back to the NCCG, the Code of Corporate Governance of 2018, the code actually recommends that the Remuneration Committee should develop a clear and transparent framework for remuneration. Would you shed a little bit of light on what they mean by clear and transparent?
Well, by clear and transparent framework, I think they're talking about there shouldn't be room for ambiguity. I mean, it should be clear, it should be known what is the policy. There shouldn't be room, so it's not subject to wrong interpretation. And besides, when you talk about remuneration, you're talking about money.
Okay.
So there needs to the people to implement it need to understand what the policy is all about. So there's no need to misinterpretation, and the company's interest will always be protected in implementing the policy.
Does it also mean that the remuneration of each of the, let me talk about the employees now, senior management,
right,
should be made open? It should be something that is also known by everybody.
Yes, it should be made open, because it's a part of the inputs into the company's annual report.
Okay.
Yes, it should be made open. Yes.
Okay. Now let's talk about Principle 16 of that code. The Principle 16 of the NCCG on remuneration governance states that the remuneration of non-executive directors should be fixed by the board and approved by the shareholders at the annual general meeting. Is it proper for the board of a company incurring losses for about 2 years to propose increase of remuneration of the non-executive directors?
Well, let me start by answering the last aspect of it. I don't think it is proper where a company is making a loss for the board to now propose increase. And I think that if such an increase is proposed, it will not fly with at the annual general meeting, because remuneration policies are to be approved at the annual general meeting. So that is not proper. So I believe that where a company is making losses, the proper thing is to adjust. There's nothing wrong if the directors take a pay cut, as the case may be. Yes.
Okay, as agreed by the directors themselves, right?
It could be agreed by the directors. It could be set up as a policy,
okay,
because the company is not making losses. Because when you talk about remuneration, remember the company first of all has to exist as a going concern.
Okay.
So if there are fears that a company is not a going concern, there should be serious and radical adjustments.
Okay. For further to this question,
yes,
the company is not making profit.
Profit, that is true.
For 2 years. What if the company is not declaring dividends for shareholders? Shareholders always look out for share dividends.
Yes.
The company is not declaring dividends for shareholders, let me say, consecutively for about 3 or 4 years.
Yes.
Can directors in that company be remunerated at all?
Well, there are laws guiding the declaration of dividends.
Okay.
And those laws may follow. There are policies that affect dividends being declared. So it has nothing to do with directors' remuneration. These are separate things. Directors' remunerations are already covered by the Articles of Association, the Board Charter, where they have one, and also the provisions of the Code. They are based on the work they provide for the company. And what those services are provided, the directors must be remunerated.
Okay, I also want to talk about another provision in that code.
Okay.
Now, that talks about the clawback policy.
Yes.
Now, the question now is, how can the clawback policy enable company recover undeserved benefits from directors or senior employees?
All right. The clawback policy will arise when a payment is made, when a reward is made for performance that is found out to be false. In the past, some companies used to cook their books.
Okay.
Cook their books in terms of adjusting the profits, adjusting the figures, so they will show profitability where there's none. So
that's in the past.
In the past.
Okay.
I'm not saying all companies. I mean, in the past, you know what happened during the fair bank crisis, where some banks, not all banks, used to tweak their figures, and so that is where the issue of clawback arises. Okay. So where such is discovered, it's appropriate, going by the provision of the code, for the company to devise means to withdraw whatever has been paid that should not be paid, in the first place. So this could be done maybe by withholding, asking the directors to pay back, or withholding whatever entitlements they are due that haven't been paid. So it's provided by the code.
Okay. Now I want to talk about the director's remuneration. For instance, let's take the sitting allowance, the director's fees, reimbursable travel and hotel expenses, and other allowances and benefits. They are to be disclosed in the annual report.
Yeah, that is correct, yes.
Now, should these payments aids be disclosed separately to the shareholders in the annual report, or should they be lumped together? And if they are to be lumped together or be disclosed separately, what are the reasons for it?
I think the disclosure should be full. Whatever is disclosure, it should be full. The purpose, the reason for it being full is that the reader will understand what the disclosure is all about.
Being full means to be disclosed separately.
Disclosed separately with appropriate headings.
Okay.
So whoever is reading it will understand what the disclosure is all about. It's all for purpose of transparency, so that the disclosure will be meaningful to the readers, and the shareholders can now ask questions where necessary.
Okay, I have a text message from Mr. Abimbola. Mr. Abimbola is asking, what can employees do if pension has been removed from their salary for about 2 years, and that pension is not remitted to the appropriate authorities? What can the employees do?
Yeah, I think that has been a complaint about some companies. It's actually unethical for a company to deduct pensions contribution and it's faced to remit. But the problem is that as an employee in the company, there's a limit to what you yourself can do. The first thing is to find out, do they have a union? Is the place unionized? If there's a union, these are some of the issues the union can take up and discuss with the appropriate authorities. And again, as an employee, you can also approach maybe the HR manager to make a complaint that deductions have been made to your from you, the contributions are yet to be remitted. But the other aspect that will create trouble, since you're still in the employment of the company, is to inform the appropriate regulatory body that pensions are being removed, they are not being deducted. So you have to weigh.
You have to weigh your options.
Weigh your options and know which is the appropriate one to do based on your own circumstances.
Okay. Is it not right for regulatory bodies to know by constant or regular supervision of those players in the pension market, rather than the employees now risking their employment to make such reports?
Well, the problem with the regulatory bodies, most times they're overwhelmed by work.
Okay.
So they may not have the capacity to start going after one company or the other to check whether they comply with the Pension Reform Act. All right. So the appropriate thing to do is that whatever an infringement is noticed, is to bring it to the notice and for them to take proper action.
To bring it to their notice. Okay, Mr. Bimbola, you have that. You have options on how to go about your pension issue. Now, the Nigerian Code of Corporate Governance is another provision of that code. Provides that payment for the loss of office to the managing director, executive directors, and senior management should be based on contractual terms, fair and not excessive. Well, what should be the criteria for the payment of loss of office for the non-executive directors?
Well, let me start with the one of executive directors.
Okay.
In executive directors, apart from their being directors, they are actually employees of the company.
Okay.
And they have letters of employment stating what the terms and conditions of our service with the company should be. And you know that the law is very strict, particularly the National Industrial Code. They have heard several times that in terminating an employee or a director, or where there's a loss of office, the terms and conditions of such employment must be strictly adhered to.
Okay.
So they are governed by the fact that they are employees of the company. So they have rights already contracted.
There are terms and
terms
for that employment.
Yes, which must be followed.
Okay.
Then for the non-executive directors, I mean they are elected directors by the company at the AGM. What they're entitled to are already specified in the Articles of Association. The board charter is based on the code. They're entitled to certain allowance, reimbursable expenses. So it's only when those are incurred that they get paid. So I don't think there's any special provision for their own loss of office. They can be removed at the AGM, following the procedures laid down by the Companies and Other Matters Act. So there's no special provision for their own loss of office, as long as the provisions of CAMA for removing directors are followed, if they have to be removed as directors of the company.
Okay, can the non-executive directors be removed before the expiration of their term?
Well, it actually depends. Directors are to be removed at the AGM.
Okay.
But it's possible that the director could die. I'm not saying
okay.
Before that time, there could be a casual, what's called a casual vacancy. Maybe it could be ill. There are reasons. There could be reasons why a director could leave before his term or before the AGM. There are many reasons. Yes.
Okay, let's come back to ICSAN. Can ICSAN as an institute carry out remuneration policy reviews for companies in different sectors of our economy?
Yes. Our institute can and should. As part of the ways of creating awareness for our institute, my worry is that we need to recruit capable hands, capable HR practitioners, personnel who are competent in personnel management and other related issues. Because corporate governance is a wide area of things to do. There are many aspects of it. So we have to rebrand our institute, have the capable personnel that can carry out such duties.
Okay. ICSAN can be involved in remuneration reviews.
Yes,
okay.
For companies, that's correct. Yes.
Okay, earlier on, you mentioned that during the COVID,
yes,
that some organizations restructured their remuneration policies as it affects some staffs.
Adjusted.
Yes,
that's true.
Now, can the same be done for the allowances and all the perks that the board of directors are getting?
Yes.
During that time, if you are doing it to the employees, can you also do it to the board of directors?
Yeah, I believe that it was a total thing. It was done during both covering every aspect of the company, both the management cadre, non-management, and non-management directors. So everybody had a feel of the readjustment of entitlements and remuneration. Yeah, okay. Because even the board are supposed to have a time frame within which they must meet, okay, once a quarter. But all those were all adjusted. Whatever was paid was also adjusted. Yes.
Okay, there's a place I'm going to really.
Okay.
Now that we are in post-COVID regime and things are normalized, if the company now makes so much money, revenues, can it also be adjusted to normal, and what they have lost in the past, can it be given back to them?
Thank you very much for that question. But my thinking is that the way the company operates, the company does not operate that way. And even if we are back to post-COVID, I don't think the profits of the margins of company have returned to the pre-COVID level. Okay. That may lead to financial irresponsibility. I believe that there could be cases going forward where companies could reward employees in deserving situations. But I don't think it should be as a result of what has happened pre-COVID. Yes, there could be instances where the company going forward could reward employees based on performance. Because when you mention about remuneration can be used against targeted achievements.
Okay.
It can be against targeted achievements. So I believe there are many instances where the company going forward can find a way to reward the employees or management or non-management if the need arises.
Okay. Now let's look at this other scenario. Okay. Assuming a company discovered through what is called remuneration surveys of a sector that a company is earning much more than what other companies are earning in that sector in terms of the board of directors, allowances, and the rest, what can such company do?
Well, a company anymore, there are many things to look at for a company to arrive in what to pay the directors, whether executive or non-executive. Like I said before, you have to look at the industry. Now you have to look at the type of company.
And that's what I'm saying, the same industry now. The same industry.
And again, remember one of the objectives of remuneration is to attract. Is to attract.
Is to retain and to motivate.
So those things have to be looked into. It depends on what the company wants to aspire to. So my question is, my point is this: once the company has the ability to pay, and once the procedures are followed by the remuneration committee to set up the remuneration policies and the structure, it should not be necessarily. Shouldn't be necessarily if others are paying lower, the company should not rush to cut back. That should be a reason why they have to do that. That shouldn't be, in my understanding, that shouldn't be a factor. That shouldn't be a reason for the company to cut back.
Okay. Yes. I have another funny question here from this Mr. Tiamiyu.
Okay.
He said, thank you for the answers on the pension issue.
Okay.
Now the question is, what can the employees do if the company is owing about a year or two salary?
Well, that's a tough one. If a company is earning a year and a two salary, then the question is how is the employees expected to survive? It's a clear sign that the company is not a going concern. There's something fundamentally wrong with the operations of the company. Well, if a company is owing a year and two salary, one, the company becomes a debtor. It's a sign that perhaps the employees may have to start making plans to look for another place to work, except there are plans to restructure the company. So it's a debt owed by the company. If you are still in the company, and you still have to hold on, hoping that maybe there could be a restructuring, maybe there can be an investor that can bring money where all these issues are cleared and inject capital so the company can now function as before. But if you have left the service of the company, it becomes a debt for which you can sue and recover the debt.
Okay, which you can sue and recover the debt.
Yes.
But if you have not left the service of the company, you may not be able to sue.
You may not be able to sue. You cannot be suing them while you're still in the employ. Yes.
Okay, on the final note, Mr. Uko, is remuneration. You are guiding people on remuneration issue.
Okay.
What's your final advice to organizations on how to go about remuneration policies?
Well, in going about the remuneration policy, I think the most important thing is to look at the ability of the company to pay.
Okay.
And when the annual accounts are prepared, there's a pie chart being developed. There's a portion should go to the remuneration of staff. A portion will go to to some other matters.
Different expenses.
Different expenses.
Okay.
So it's a proper that they should maintain a balance, whereby the remuneration shouldn't be the major chunk of the company's expenses. So it should be based on what the company can easily can pay and can afford. And again, when the policy is made, the policy should not be cast in stone. As events occur, they can be reviewed, either upwards or downwards. I know it's important that the highly adjustments. I know it's important that highly skilled staff should be retained, but at the same time, it is dangerous where remuneration, like you said, is excessive.
Continuity or association plan for your business.
Has anyone shared the concept of
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. ONYEKACHI Uko, Esquire, for doing justice to this topic. We thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you, sir.
And for sharing your thoughts on remuneration policies.
Thank you, sir.
This is where we will wrap it up. We want to thank those that sent text messages, and for our viewers out there for being part of the show. Thank you. We invite you to join us again next week, same time, same station. I remain your regular host, Tunde Odeyemi. My producer is Mr. Adegboye Galabiran, and the technical director is Mr. Habib Adejobi. Keep spreading the gospel of corporate governance, and bye for now.
Germane to having effective meetings.
For these and many more, tune into Corporate Governance Platform every Thursday on MITV, your darling station, on DSTV 255 and UHF 43 at 4:30 p.m.
Corporate Governance Platform is your best medium for informative and educative strategies for the practice of the corporate governance profession.
Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria.
For informative and educative strategies for the practice of the corporate governance profession.
Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria. ICSAN, the hub of governance professionals.